During the 4-month downtime in between replacing my computer, I used Bionicle reviews like the Takanuva standing in the back of the shot in order to keep content on my channel coming, and fittingly enough, shortly after being able to get the new computer where my normal content is picking back up, I actually have one more that I had planned out that's going to be a nice finale for now for this whole thing. So, without further ado, I present to you the McDonald's Toa Mystica. Alright, fine, you caught me. I lied. I honestly don't even know how this thing ended up in my possession. It's very clearly not something I would ever intentionally seek out, and it definitely came into my possession well after McDonald's had done them, so this is just a mystery. No, I'm actually looking in today, as promised, at the Toa Ignika set 8697 from 2008 during the Phantoka wave. This set was always one of those that was something of a Holy Grail to me. I never picked it up at the time, and I always regretted not picking it up. And the mask itself, of course, is highly desirable, considering the 2 years prior it had been a prized token at the center of both plots. The only version of the mask I have is one that was part of a keychain, which I have turned into a necklace, which is also a review here on the channel from that time. Before we open it, let's take just a quick look at the box art and see what we can see. Obviously on the front we have some flying effects like the Matoran background, or possibly the Makuta layer, I'm not sure which one, but the large rocky structure out in the middle of open air in the center of the planet is what they think. There's also some nice tech stuff going around on the borders. The front, the sides don't really have anything exciting, but the back is nice. It gives a different view of the Toa Ignika standing off of his board. It also shows the other sets from the wave and how you use the Sky Blaster that he has. I'd like to point out that the Sky Blaster is being held by a red hand here, and none of the characters have a Sky Blaster and red hands down here. It's just a fun detail I wanted to point out. Here is the final build. The Toa Ignika, upon his flying board. I don't remember what it's called. As you can see, actually having him on the board, you sort of have to give him a little bit of a dynamic pose because of how far it expects him to stand apart, but you can also have him standing more upright if you want him being less dramatic. I myself kind of like the dramatic pose, but it works both ways. There's actually not much movement in the board properly, but the wings themselves on the side will come out further. And here he is off of his board, just to look at him as the standalone character as well. Now to start, I do like the color scheme a lot on this. Very typically you'd see a 2-color scheme focus with sets like this, where it would be a main color and then a sort of base underlying color. But in this case, I kind of think it works really well having the 3 colors in there, the nice yellowish color over top of the black, and then the silver over top of the yellowish color. It does give it just enough distinction that I think it works really well. I do think it's interesting how forward his head is in the build. I was worried it was going to make him look hunched a little bit, but there's actually enough weight to it that that's not really the case. It balances out a little better than I was originally thinking. We'll get back to the back in just a moment with this, but first off, I want to look in at his blaster that all of the heroic characters from the first part of the year, and a few from the second half of the year for that matter, all carried this, which was a Sky Blaster. Now, I don't like the way they have him holding it. It's sort of awkward and hard to pose. It would have been much more logical to do it like they did with some of the other characters, just holding it upright on top of his hand. I guess they just wanted it to look different. However, this is one of the best launchers that Bionicle ever introduced. What it is, it's big and long like this so that it can hold 4 of the ammo spheres, which were the same sphere that the Phantoka used a couple years earlier, obviously in a different launcher though. And very simply, you would just put your finger here and you'd pull the trigger like such. So it actually holds effectively all 4 shots, and they don't go anywhere since they're held in place by this turning wheel mechanism. But Charlie, I hear some of you hypothetical viewers saying, I want to know what's going on with this big, weird, protruding part on his back. What's up with that? Well, acute viewer who just paid attention to something I pointed out moments ago, this particular year in Bionicle, or at least the first half of the year, the Toa were built so that you could have the Matoran on their backs. The villainous Makuta could do the same with the corrupted Shadow Matoran. And while I don't have any of the Matoran from that year, you might notice that Takanuva has been removed from the background. Well, that was intentional. See, he has the same body type as the Matoran from that year. I've already removed his armor piece to demonstrate correctly. Very simply, you could just mount a Matoran on their back, and now they have a co-pilot, if you will. No, it does not look questionable at all. Don't even suggest it. Finally, the board itself. Now, despite taking up a decent number of the pieces in this, considering it was twice the size of the normal hero sets, it's actually relatively lightweight. There's a good use of structure in there for what should feel flimsier considering what they use, but it's actually fairly sturdy. It's a little bit flexible, so it'd probably store relatively well without anything snapping if you were just being careless throwing it into storage. More importantly though, because this is his flight board that he uses to fly, it does feel very nice and swooshable. I could see Kid Charlie running around doing this and that and the other with it if I had had it at this time. Some of it was a little trickier to put together, and I don't know if that's just the age of the pieces, considering this is now a 12-year-old set, or if it was just trying to get all the little Technic axles in place, something that my hands are not really used to anymore, seeing as it's been a long time since I've put together something this technical. I don't really know which, but I really like the design. I wouldn't do too much to change it because I think it gets the point across very effectively. One thing I might have done is find some way to put some fire pieces back here, which would be easy with some stud pins and then some little flames. Alternately, they could have done something with bigger Bionicle flame pieces we'd seen a few times. That would take more work, so I don't know exactly what would work best. But all in all, I really like this build as well. So there is the Toa Ignika, built, put together, and finally in my collection. If you enjoyed this video, feel free to go ahead and check out some of the earlier Bionicle reviews that I did. This is the last Bionicle I had in stockpile in waiting, and since it's not an ongoing thing, it may be a while, if ever, before another one of these gets uploaded here. Playlist will be down in the description. I'd definitely love it if you check some of my other content out. Give this video a like if you liked it, and subscribe if you'd like to see more from me, and I hope you all stay very safe out there. Thanks for watching.